For those of you who have heard me before, I usually don't come up with notes. But there's so much that needs to be said today, and I don't want to miss anything, so I've got them here with me today. It's hard to talk about much else this morning after seeing the horrific images coming out of Rafah last night. Just when you think your heart can't break any further, it does. But we draw strength and comfort from each other and from the kind of solidarity that this student encampment represents, and that all the encampments represent across North America and indeed around the world. Our tax dollars and your tuition dollars fund these grounds. This is your space. This is our space. And first and foremost, this is Indigenous space. When we see institutions and organizations attempting to control what is said through threats and organizations attempting to use intimidation, I don't like it that much, in spaces that belong to us all, then labor must be there. What we are witnessing on this campus and around the world is nothing short of a global movement of students and young people standing up for a better world, a world of peace and justice for everyone. And they are holding our leaders and institutions to account. In Frank, the kids are all right. It is a movement that shows its commitment to peace and justice, not only in its demands, but also in its deeds, in how it organizes, in how its members treat each other, and all that they meet. It is a movement that is fueled by solidarity, by the idea that none of us are free until every single one of us is free. It recognizes that an injury to one is an injury to all. And as trade unionists, we sometimes take these ideas for granted. As students, you have reminded us what those ideas mean in practice and what they look like in real life, and I am here to thank you for that. And to let you know that you inspire all of us. But I'm also here, along with so many other workers, to show our solidarity with you, in the same way that you have shown the people of Gaza. When we heard on Friday that the senior administration of the University of Toronto had issued an ultimatum, we recognized it for what it was, an attempt to threaten and to bully you.
Shame!
To force you to back down, in the same way that employers and governments do to workers at the bargaining table and on the picket lines. We saw it as an attempt to sidestep good faith negotiations and to wield institutional power to avoid accountability. And we completely reject that. So on Saturday, you may have heard, we sent an open letter to Mr. Gertler, the president of the University of Toronto. We urged him to choose negotiations and discussions over ultimatums and repression. I gave a shout out to the brave students at Ontario Tech University and McMaster University, both of whom have showed us that peaceful negotiated conclusions to the encampment is possible. I want to give a shout out to those students for all the students and all of their supporters at every encampment and around the world. I ended my letter by saying that if the University of Toronto makes a move against the students, they'll have to go through the workers first. But don't take my word for it. I don't want you to take my word for it. I want each of you to look around and see that there are unions from here, workers from unions across the province. We've got Steel, we've got UFCW, we've got OPSU, we've got EDCO, we've got CUPE, we've got CFS. And each of those people represents thousands more that weren't going to be able to be here today. It is deep, The power of workers is deep. There are more of us than there are of them, and we will not let them forget it. But if President Gertler thinks this is a one-off, let me be clear. We're just getting started. And we will keep coming back until they stop the threats and until students get the deal that they need. When we issued our letter on Saturday, we were heartened by the outpouring of support from you, from other students, from our many members. But we also provoked some questions, and we need to take those questions seriously and answer them clearly. Some people asked me, what does this have anything to do with workers? Others told me to stay out of international affairs and focus on labor issues. Let me say this now. The peace and well-being of workers anywhere is a concern of workers here. And when the rights of others are under attack, including students who are workers, including students who are the children of workers, then our rights as workers are also under attack. If the university administrators can get away with trampling on your rights to protest and dismissing your legitimate demands, then employers everywhere will feel emboldened to do the same thing to us as workers at the bargaining table and the picket line. And we're not going to stand for that. Indeed, we have seen that happen in labor disputes where they put out trespassing orders against workers, where they attempt to put in injunctions against workers. And we, as workers in Ontario, say no more. We know it's a labor worker issue because so many workers have children who are students, myself included, who work hard to pay the skyrocketing tuition and who deserve to be safe on their campus. We know it's a labor issue because so many students are also workers. You are working and you are studying at the same time. You are members of trade unions, and we thank you. We know it's a labor issue because billions of our tax dollars get spent on military budgets and weapons of war instead of healthcare and education. We know it's a labor issue because the cost of living crisis, which is hurting workers everywhere, is made worse by war. Political instability and escalating violence in the region disrupt global supply chains and drive up costs, from the gas pump to the grocery store. And so I want to say to all of those political leaders, like Doug Ford, Pierre Poilievre, who try to blame inflation, I don't even have a sign to have you guys do that, who try and blame inflation on decent wages for workers or on well-funded public services. If you really wanted to fight inflation and the cost of living crisis, then quit cheerleading the war in Gaza and demand a ceasefire now. I want to conclude by returning to my original point. Solidarity matters. It fuels the work you're doing here in the encampment just as it fuels the work that we do in the labor movement. Solidarity is about seeing and indeed feeling the humanity of others in ourselves. Solidarity is a verb. It requires action. And when we take action for a better world for everyone, even if it raises deeply disturbing questions and provocative challenges to the cherished beliefs of society at large and of the university itself, quote unquote. President Gertler, if you're listening, and I hope to hell you are, I want you to know that the workers have come here today, not in the spirit of confrontation or an escalation. We come here today with hope in our hearts that you will do the right thing. We come here today in the hopes that your administration will engage in meaningful and good faith negotiations with the students, and that you will see them not as a threat, but as our future, and as leaders who will transform our world. I'm the proud mama of one of these young women who are doing just that. So I stand here as your mom. And us mama bears are hard to get through, just so you know. As I said in an article last week, you, the students, are making history before our eyes. And there will come a day when we praise you. Let's make that day today. It is our job as workers to join you and be in solidarity with you. And the sooner that we come together, the sooner that we win that better world for all of us. Say it with me. The students and workers united will never be defeated. The students and workers united will never be defeated. One day longer, let's make it happen.